The Penguins of Madagascar tells the story of four secret agent penguins that get roped into a mission to save the world from an evil octopus. And I certainly have to say that despite the film's minor flaws here and there, it was incredibly entertaining. Now in this film, of course, we have the four penguins that we've seen in the Madagascar franchise, and of course one of the penguins has a more obvious arc than the others, rather it's stated outright, and ultimately to see that arc come to fruition is something really interesting, and there is an essence of predictability that the film certainly has, but the film uses that predictability to its very own advantage. Considering the fact that ultimately, if I were to classify Penguins of Madagascar under a particular genre, I would almost say it's more of a parody than anything else. It really pokes fun at several different secret agent spy thrillers as well as action films, using the tropes, focusing on the tropes, and making certain things within those tropes not necessarily play out as they do, and acknowledging said flaw within such an action occurring on screen, ultimately making it an incredibly entertaining film to witness, to see the tropes that you know, to almost throw them in yourself before they actually happen, and ultimately for them to play out differently is where most of the humor in the film really lies. And of course this allows our four main characters to really play off well against one another. Each of them from the get-go almost has a beautifully distinct personality. In fact, when we're introduced to some of the auxiliary characters as well, just by the design and just by the look and certain things they say, we're able to grasp certain nuances about who they really are in an incredibly short span of time. Simultaneously though, a lot of what seems to happen in the film is more for the sake of the humor, which is understandable, and yet certain plot elements here and there just play out on their own. Rather, they're not particularly interesting or intriguing because the film does rely on several tropes from the past, but at the same time doesn't really add anything of its own. And there are certain points here and there wherein you do feel an oversaturation of a particular kind of joke, for example, using puns relating to celebrities' names, wherein ultimately some jokes do wear off and thereby stop being entertaining after a point. And I certainly have to say that certain action sequences are presented beautifully from a visual perspective, and when blended well with the musical score, really do add to a sense of intensity, ultimately gripping you to the screen. Ultimately, Penguins of Madagascar managed to do something that I thought it might not be able to achieve, that is making these four auxiliary characters that we've witnessed before in another franchise really have their own spin-off and really come into their own as a beautiful set of characters, so entertaining, so well presented more than anything else. And ultimately, by pushing these characters forward in a rather simplistic manner, although the film isn't necessarily complex, I don't believe at most moments that it necessarily needs to be, and at the same time, the film, despite its minor flaws, manages to be one of the most entertaining films I've seen all year. I'm gonna give Penguins of Madagascar a yes.